Loading. Welcome to Access the Animus.
Hello everyone and welcome to our new community reactions video here on Access the Animus. My name is Marco and today we're going to turn the spotlight on your comments. So, for those of you who might not know about our community reactions format, basically what we do is asking you a question on our social media and on the community tab here on the channel. And if you'd like your comments to be featured on the next video, you can just answer with the hashtag ATALabs that you can see on screen right now. So we did that last week as well, and the question was about the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and the question was, the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla was released, and we were wondering which were your favorite and least favorite aspects of the expansion, and especially why. So we took into consideration all the comments that you shared, and this time we cannot have some proper percentages about your question, about your answers, because they were very much focused on the various details that you liked and disliked. So let's just delve into the comments themselves. Let's just have a look at what you had to say. So the first comment is very much focused on the gameplay aspects, and we had a lot of comments about the powers, the abilities, etc. This comment is by No Time to Think, who is saying, my favorite aspect has been the Odin powers and the fast-paced, challenging combat, especially the fight with Surtur. I knew it was impossible, but very challenging, so I kept dying just to try again. I do agree with that. The gameplay was one of my favorite aspects of the DLC, especially the Odin powers. They were very interesting, and I think they did expand on most of the gameplay pillars of Valhalla, especially the traversal and the social stealth, which wasn't really working in Valhalla. So now, like, using the new powers allows you to get to a sync point immediately. You can travel very fast by using the Raven power, and social stealth now is working, especially after the release of patch 1.5.0. So now you can, I know it doesn't feel properly AC because you turn into a fire giant or an ice giant, but the feel of social stealth is really there. You can walk amidst the enemy. It really feels pretty great, and you can do your own thing, sneak around them and then assassinate them. It's pretty cool. I do believe, and I do agree with you, No Time to Think, it's working really, really great. The second comment is by Tailgate, one of our aficionados from the streams, who is sharing both favorite and least favorite aspects. Their favorite aspect was the mythological side. They are saying, I have a casual interest in Norse myth, so that helped my enjoyment of the expansion. The new gameplay addition, like the Adgeir weapon type and the Hogari powers, were also fun to use. I can't, like I said, I do agree in terms of the gameplay. Also, the Adgeir is an interesting weapon because it's it's like you can consider it like placed midway between the axes, but it's faster than them, and the faster swords, slightly slower than the swords, but it deals an interesting amount of damage. So it's a welcome addition. I don't exactly agree on the myth side, but of course, all the more power to you guys if you enjoy the myth side of the DLC, because I believe that the DLC does not follow properly the myth either, because it has to address the Isu story as well. So again, it's always like the story is in between the myth and the Isu story, and it's not really, to me, it's not really appealing to either side. But I'm happy, Tailgate, that you enjoy the mythological side in here. While the negative aspect here that Tailgate is mentioning for the hardcore fans, they could have added more clearer hints toward the ISO era version of the events in Svartalfheim, like maybe some new animus anomalies. After you completed them, you could unlock a cutscene that showed what actually happened without the mythological veil. Yes, I would have loved that. I would have loved to see that. It would have been okay to have the mythological side and then you see how things actually happened, as it was the case in the main game. Too bad that wasn't the case, and it left us with a lot of question marks at the end, which was pretty abrupt if you ask me. We're going to have a full analysis on the story starting in the coming days. Maybe by the time the video is out, we already released our first episode, but yeah, the ending has been a very tumultuous aspect discussed by the community for sure. Moving on to another comment. This is by Crafting Ranger, who is another aficionado of our streams. Here called Adam Clayton on Twitter. They said, I like the expansion, but it felt unfinished story-wise. So we have one of the least favorite aspects here. Like a chapter was missing. Eivor's story was nice, so they did like Eivor's story. Her final scene made me she tear, but the lack of Loki, as well as some actual development of Surtur, bother me. I do agree mostly on the negative aspects here about the story. The lack of Loki here was very bad, a very bad look on the DLC itself, especially considering that everything we knew about Baldur before the DLC was very much tied to Loki, who was the perpetrator of what happened to Baldur, and there's nothing about that in the DLC, which feels very bad. And also we don't know much about Surtur either, like Crafting Ranger mentioned. They did like Eivor's story. I have some gripes with Eivor's story as well. I'm very spoiled here, but yeah, like the ending. I'm not gonna spoil too much, but yeah, I'm not super happy about the ending. It doesn't feel very much connected to where Eivor actually ended at the end of her life. I'm not gonna go too much into that. We're going to discuss that in the actual story analysis on the channel. But yeah, then we have another question, another comment. This is by Darude Sandstorm. I'm gonna try and read some of the aspects of this comment, which is very long. I really loved reading through all your comments, who were very, very detailed and very long. I really like how you guys are trying to explain your opinions so much in detail. So Darude is saying, my favorite aspect of this DLC is probably the atmosphere around the dwarves living underground. All the shelters are really well done. I do agree. Visually, the shelters look very nice, and they look unique to one another. This was promised by the devs, and at least this was one of the promises, or like of the aspect that were mentioned by the devs that were actually appeared in the DLC, as they said. So kudos to the devs for that. And David is saying it was a pleasure to discover one each time, and the characters all have an interesting story to tell us. Exploration is quite well rewarded too. I was not bored, and besides, I cleaned 50% of the map before finishing the DLC without realizing it. I do agree on the world being pretty interesting, at least at first. Then to me, it felt repetitive only after, when you get to clear the map and do all the collectibles. You tend to feel patterns here and there, but at least at first glance, it does surprise you with different biomes, or like different environments where you get a lot of lava, but also a lot of ice, and then you have like these lush environments, and then you have the golden mountains, and then there's like the 3 huge dams that you can explore. There's a lot of stuff here in the DLC in terms of world, for sure. And then Darude is saying, what I like the least is the absence of interesting cutscenes. Everything is explained only by dialogues at the end. There is no big plot twist. We're just told that we won't see everything that is interesting and everything that we really expected, and it's a little frustrating. I do agree with that. Like we mentioned earlier, the ending is a little abrupt, and some of the explanations happen through the post-credit cutscene. And those explanations are not even about what happened in the DLC, which is still pretty vague, but about something else that happened off screen, which is not really like usually you want to show and not tell, but the ending of the DLC or like the post-credit scene was tell not show, which wasn't amazing, and it's still, to me, it's still like that post-credit scene was still better than the ending itself. So not a great look, in my opinion. In the last few days, we have also released a survey dedicated to the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC, where we asked you a few questions about some of the aspects of the DLC itself. And it's still active right now. You can find the link in the description. But as of now, we are recording on Wednesday, March the 16th. We have received already a few hundred votes on the various questions, so let's delve into the various results, which are very interesting. Some questions have some equally distributed answers, while some others are very heavily polarized. So let's dive into the first one. The first one was pretty much, did you enjoy the Isu story in the DLC? And as you can see, there is like a predominance, or at least 50%, 54% of you of the fans that answered did say not at all, or it could have been better. 50% said not to praise nor to blame, so pretty much indifferent, and we have around 30% of the fans that enjoyed the Isu story in the DLC. That's really interesting. I guess that also comes from how it was very difficult to understand the story here. It was sometimes vague or sometimes very cryptic, I would say. So I guess that's the reason why we are having this kind of answers. The second question was, did Eivor's story match your expectations in the DLC? And even here we have around 60% of negative answers. I don't know if that comes from the fact that Eivor's story is very short in the DLC. Obviously the DLC is super heavily focused on the mythology part, or maybe it's because of the content of Eivor's story, which is basically made up of the interactions with Valka and the few scenes at the end, and there are some stories that you can listen to at the campfire. So I wonder if that's the reason why. And the positive answers here are no more than 21%. So not a lot of fans even liked the Viking Age story here in the DLC. Then we have a question about the Odin power, skills, and abilities. The question was, what is your opinion about those? We had around 30% of people saying that they didn't like them very much, useless and boring, or not so much entertaining. And instead we have a 45% of people that did like that. I were amidst the people that say, I would have said they were great, honestly. And a good chunk of people that say like they were fine. So not indifferent, but they were okay without any additional praise or hate. Then we had a question about the game world. Was it big enough or not? And again, we can see the majority here, like this is very polarized. It was just fine. So it wasn't too big or too small, which is pretty cool. I would say the same. It's not too big. There are enough variations in there, so you can enjoy the world as it is, considering the context where it is set, of course. Then another question was about the activities, like word events, side missions, collectibles, etc. Were there enough, too many, or not enough of those. And again, as we can see, like in terms of gameplay, fans were pretty much okay with how the DLC was released and portrayed. So we have like 40% about that was the right amount of activities, and only 27% of fans that were annoyed by the amount of collectibles and side missions, etc. That's pretty cool. And the dissatisfied fans here were around 30%, so that's not too bad, honestly, in my opinion, in terms of results. Then the next question was about the Valkyrie arena, and also here we had like an equally distributed kind of answers. We have the negative answers here are 38%, the positive ones are 37%, so we're pretty much there, and the indifferent ones are the remaining ones, so very heterogeneous in here. And then we have the questions that I was asking, that I was waiting for the most, and it's about the pricing of the DLC. As you can see, it's not even polarized, it's super focused on how it is too expensive. It is too much. It was, and here like the negative answers here were around 86%. It's pretty much everyone. There were a 12% of indifferent, and I'm very surprised that somebody answered with it should have definitely been higher considering the content. I don't know if that was a troll or if you answered and you were definitely absolutely okay with that, then again, all the more power to you, for sure. But the overall consensus was absolutely that the DLC was too expensive for the content that it portrayed and that it had. And that was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the comments and the opinions shared today as much as I enjoyed discussing them. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, keep your eyes out on our social media, on the community tab here on the channel as well. We're going to ask another question very soon, so if you'd like your comments to be shared and to be used in our future community reactions video, make sure to use the hashtag ATALabs. So thank again for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.